Here's an experiment for you. Take passionate experts in human resource technology. Invite cross-industry experts from inside and outside HR. Mix in what's happening in people analytics today. Give them the technology to connect. Hit record. Pour their discussions into a beaker. Mix thoroughly. And voila, you get the HR Data Labs podcast, where we explore the impact of data and analytics to your business. We may get passionate and even irreverent, but count on each episode challenging and enhancing your understanding of the way people data can be used to solve real-world problems. Now, here's your host, David Turetsky.
Hello and welcome to episode 125 of the HR Data Labs podcast. I am your host, David Turetsky, along with my co-host, Dwight Brown. Hey, Dwight.
David, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm good. I am happy to be at this episode. I mean, can you believe it's been this long?
I cannot. We're almost up to 3 years doing this.
I know.
And who thought we were going to get to 125 episodes?
I'm not sure either of us thought. Then again, we had the vision. We're living.
We did, but we also had very low expectations as well. So
right, exactly. Just in case things didn't pan out. That's right.
Yeah, right. There's always a side business. Oh, this was a side business. This is a hobby, but it's really been a very fun hobby. And I think what we're going to attempt to do today, and because everybody knows what we do at the end of every season is we look back at the season that was, we talk about the season that will be ahead, and we also talk about our predictions, and we review our predictions from the last 6 months, and we talk about our predictions for the next 6 months. And that's one of our fun parts of doing these season-ending episodes. But before we get there, Dwight, what's the one thing, and of course, they've heard this many times, but what's the one thing no one knows about Dwight?
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Come on, you got to come up with something new. We know you're a thrill seeker.
Did I talk before about selling polished rocks as a kid? Does that one ring a bell with you?
I don't remember you ever saying that you sold polished rocks. It does track though.
So I mean, you know me, I'm kind of a Renaissance man. I get involved in a lot of different things.
Yes, you are.
So when I was a kid, I got fascinated with rocks. And so my parents bought me a rock polisher. And now, if you know anything about polishing rocks, you know that it's not exactly an energy efficient kind of thing, because we'd put the rocks in this little rubber thing that then went on this motor that spun it for, I think it was 6 weeks at a time or something like that. Yeah, tumbler, exactly. And so I'd do all these polished rocks. And then we had an outdoor theater by our place that always had a Saturday, Sunday flea market. So I'd go down to this flea market and I'd sell my polished rocks. And that's how I supplemented my allowance.
Wow.
Didn't get to pay for my college that way, but Hey,
it was something.
Right, exactly.
And it's great. It got you to think like an entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. My first foray into the business world. There
you go.
So how about you? Your turn.
I'm an open book. People know a lot about me. So let's see. I published a book for the first time, and you may know about this because I think you received a copy. We had created a comic called the HR Data Doodles that was a companion to the HR Data Labs podcast for a while when we were Turetsky Consulting. And the doodles, I think we had 21 episodes of doodles. And what I did was I compiled them into basically a graphic novel and just self-published that. And it's available on Amazon. We're actually starting the sale of it on August 4th, which coincides with the Boston Fan Expo. And so this was my first foray. And I got to be honest with you, it was stressful, but it was a lot of fun. And if you want a copy before August 4th, you can go to hrdatalabs.com, the companion site. It's available there. And if you want I'll sign one for you. But otherwise, we're going to go on sale from Amazon on August 4th.
So for those of you who are oriented toward the book collecting world, this is definitely collectible because HR Data Doodles is no more. So,
well, I mean, now that it's been published, there potentially could be an episode or other sets of episodes now.
Oh, okay.
But it's a hobby. It's not part of my work. So.
Right. But even so, the pilot season or the pilot initiative with Data Doodles is over. So it's almost having a first edition versus a second and a third edition.
It's definitely a first edition. Yeah,
exactly.
Published as a first edition. So, if there is a second edition, it'll definitely be news to me because I have to write it. But yeah, so no, but it's possible now. So we'll see. Yeah. So that's my news, is that I published for the first time. So now I have an Amazon author page and yay, all that great stuff.
Nice.
So let's transition to our topic, this is episode 125. And we're going to now go look through all of the wonderful episodes we had during season 5. And Dwight, we started off with a bang with Tara Furiani.
It was great.
Not the HR lady. For those of you who don't know Tara, she's a powerhouse. She's a hero. She's super mom. She is just...
Hey, this is William Tincup, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Practitioner Corner podcast. It's a wonderful podcast about the journey, the paths of how practitioners, both HR and TA, kind of go from high school, college, all the way to where they are right now. Some of the things that they've learned, how they've been successful, people that thrive around them, etc. It's a fun podcast. You'll love it. You'll learn from it. Subscribe to it. Thanks.
That one of those people from the CHRO perspective that is completely honest, open about struggles and life and everything, and being very honest. She is an extremely brave human being. And again, she's a hero to me. I look up to her for all the things that she does and says and is. She is a genuine human being.
Yeah.
And we had a wonderful conversation with her.
Oh, it was such a fun conversation with her.
Yes.
It was somewhat unscripted, which is nice. It was partially scripted, but we went off script some. And
we did.
It added to the richness of it. And I feel the same way that you do about her. I just think she's an amazing human being. She talks openly about her struggles, and that's a hard quality to find in a person. We just had fun on the episode. It was a blast.
We really did. And then after that, because it's a hard act to follow, after that, we had a series of episodes that were recorded at the HR Tech 2022 conference. And if I say that we had one, we actually had 16 or 17 episodes recorded at the HR Tech 2022 event in Las Vegas. And we struggled to get all of them into season 5 because there were just so many. And by the way, when I returned from Vegas, I was exhausted, not because I was staying out late and partying and whatnot. I wasn't. Too much. I recorded that.
Good qualifier.
I admit to it. But it was just exhausting because we had so many wonderful conversations. And the first one, the one that really led everything off that was really wonderful, is that we were interviewing with the Sapient Insights group. And that's Terry Zipper, Susan Richards, and Cheryl Hurl. And it was just a phenomenal conversation about the things they learned from their 2022 HR Tech survey. And it was a wonderful conversation. It's always great talking to them. And Terry Zipper is a longtime friend of mine. But that was really kind of the kickoff of that series. And it was a wonderful kickoff. From there, we had really great conversations with Tim Sackett. And then we also spoke to my friend Bennett Sung about what's going on in the world of the emerging technologies in ATS and recruiting systems, because there is so much that's happening in that world. And then the other one that was along that same line was Maya Huber, from the perspective of utilizing competencies and how that comes into being able to find the right people and using that in the ATS world as well. I'd love to get Dwight's perspective on this, but unfortunately, Dwight didn't go to the conference. He didn't go to HR Tech 2022. So it was just me. And that was really a bummer.
I did not. David and I were commenting before we got on air here, that as I was looking back at the season, I was looking at the episodes and going, I barely was on any of this just because I wasn't an HR tech and we had so many HR tech episodes.
We did.
I feel like I'm a stranger now to the podcast.
You're not a stranger. You're my partner in this. But here's the other thing. What we tried to do is we also tried to drip in other episodes. Like we talked to Joe Phoenix about charitable giving and making charitable giving part of the employee benefits package. We also talked to, and I don't think you were there for this, Karen Buckbinder from salary.com to talk about using Excel for compensation purposes. And we called that one Death by Spreadsheet. But then back to the HR Tech, we had then many weeks in a row of HR Tech 2022. And then we finally got another one, which was an awesome conversation with the representatives Fluker Oakley and Representative Cutler from Massachusetts, talking about their bill 1849, which is the introduction of pay transparency in Massachusetts. And Dwight, I don't think you were on that one either, were you?
No, I wasn't. But pay transparency.
I see a pattern here, right?
Quiet quitting, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get to that.
No, but pay transparency it's amazing how much that is just rocketed into the public discourse over the last year and a half, 2 years. It's been there. There have been rumblings of it, but it is absolutely amazing, especially, and I'm sure a lot of this is driven by the legislation that's out there.
Absolutely. Well, just to kind of bring up that point, if I look back at the other series, if I look back at the episodes through, season 3 and season 4, I don't think we had one episode in all of that time that focused specifically on pay transparency. But in this series, in this season, we at least had 3 or 4 that had their primary focus in pay transparency. Mm-hmm. So, you're right. I think it has come on strong, and especially from the perspective of, this is now law in many states. Right. So we're going to be talking about transparency for quite some time. In fact, by the time this airs, I will have spoken at SHRM on pay transparency and some of the unintended consequences of pay transparency. And hopefully we're going to get that recording and be able to put it on the podcast for next season.
Mm-hmm. That'll be a good one.
Yeah. Well, actually, we had one this year. Again, one you also weren't on as well. Sorry, dude. That I recorded my pay transparency presentation that it was called Pay Transparency's Benefits and Challenges. And I recorded that at the Meeting of the Minds, ADP's Meeting of the Minds in March of this year. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that not only have we been talking about it, but we're going to continue to talk about it, either as the focus of the episode or at least part of an episode going forward.
Yeah, there's so much going on. I mean, just some of the projects that we're working on right now with clients and the struggles that they're having with it. It's going to continue to be at the forefront for us, and probably more so.
Totally agree. I mean, just like we started talking about DE&I maybe in season 3 with more effort. I think season 3 was really the DE&I season, where I think we may have had 6 or 7 that just focus specifically on DE&I. And then, in season 4, we had probably another 4 or 5. This season, if I'm not mistaken, we had at least 4 that focus specifically. And I know for next season, we have plenty that focus on DE&I. And one of those things that we're going to be talking about as we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is how that fits into the world of pay and pay transparency and the unintended consequences of our programs and policies that call into question how we treat people, whether we treat people differently or not. So I think that's going to be a thread through all those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, DE&I and pay transparency are inextricably linked to each other.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure that everybody fully understands that, but it will be good to kind of walk down that road and be able to start to call out what those linkages are, the positives and the pitfalls that go with that.
Absolutely. And also how it gets measured, right? How we set goals around it and how it gets measured as to the outcomes and the consequences. So those will all be part of it. I think one of the other things we talked about more so this season 5 than we've talked about in the past are competencies and skills and how that has intertwined into the descriptions that we use to help employees understand what they're supposed to be doing, or at least measuring what kind of skills do employees have and what do we need? So I think we talked about that a lot this season, and I hopefully we'll continue that next year, especially when it comes to the recruiting story and the DE&I story.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking subscribe. This podcast is made possible by Salary.com. Now, back to the show.
Let's transition to season 6 and talk about a little bit about what we have ahead of us. So we definitely have DE&I because we're going to be talking to a few authors and a few thought leaders in the world of DE&I. We've already recorded some episodes with those folks, and some of them are highly emotionalized and some are just fascinating conversations. But then we get into the season of the conference. So we're going to SHRM in June. We're going to WorldatWork in June. We're going to be recording some episodes from both of those conferences. And then we get into our favorite, which is the HR Technology Conference in Las Vegas. And then we're going to be recording there as well. And so we'll be talking to, the thought leaders in the space like Al Adamson and Ian Cook and Jason Averbook and Chris Avrilla, and then some of the others that we have become very close friends with, like Tim Sackett. And we're going to try and get you kind of the latest thinking as to what's happening in the world. And so that'll probably take us through the end of season 6 and probably into season 7 as well. So we're really looking forward to having some really interesting, fascinating, wonderful conversations at those conferences. And, we've said this before, and hopefully if you can, please send us your ideas of what you'd like to hear in the upcoming season, in season 6. Of course, season 6 will be our 3-year anniversary. I think the first episode debuted it was October 1st, 2020.
Do I have to buy you roses for our anniversary?
No, just the thought that mattered, Dwight. So just the thought. You know what you could do? You can go to hrdatalabs.com and buy me something.
Oh, there we go. Buy you some nice swag. Yeah.
Yeah, some merch from the merch store.
The You're on Mute cup.
Yeah. You mean the one that I'm holding up right now that says HR Data Labs, you are on mute?
That is my absolute favorite cup of all time.
Did I ever send you one?
No. But now I'm going to go on HR Data Labs and buy one.
HRDataLabs.com. That's HRDataLabs.com. No, you don't have to go there. It would be nice if you did. There's a lot of fun stuff up there. But
oh, yeah.
So that also brings up the fact that during season 6, we're also going to be at the Boston Fan Expo, August 4th through 6th, selling the HR Data Doodles book, as well as selling a bunch of merch from the merch store and some of the fun stuff like the dog leash hangers and some of the other stuff that we do. So that's not a prediction. That's actually going to happen. I bought a booth.
That's a definite. I was going to say, you don't get credit for a prediction on that one.
No, that's not a prediction. That's next. That's coming up next. So as you all know, one of the things, and this is what Dwight's bringing up, what we do every year is we go back in time and we look at what we said for season before and what we predicted was going to happen in the season before, and that we judge ourselves on what we said. And then we put our Karnak hat, for those of you who remember the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, we put our Karnak hat on and we say, what's going to happen in the next 6 months? And so, Dwight, why don't you cover off on what was it that you said was supposed to happen in the last 6 months? And then we'll both judge whether or not that actually happened.
Whether or not it happened, yeah. My prediction before was that we were going to see a softening in the labor market and that we were going to see an uptick in unemployment. And the second part of my prediction revolved around the concept of quiet quitting and quiet firing also, where companies can't afford to fire people at this point, so they choose not to, but yet they do a lot of marginalization of people within the organization. And so when I talk about quiet firing, that's kind of the concept that I'm talking about. So, David, you get to judge me. Did I make it or not?
Well, I definitely agree that quiet quitting and quiet firing are still a thing. And so I think you're accurate on that. There have been layoffs, but the layoffs have been rather sparse here and there. Where there has been weakness in the economy, especially in retail. We just saw this by, I think Macy's and Costco came out with just recently, like the last couple of days, came out with some dire predictions about their economic outlook. But the layoffs that have happened have been small layoffs, relatively speaking, to the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the concept of quiet quitting and quiet firing are still very accurate. I think they're still actually happening. And that would actually be a really good episode, Dwight, for us to work on with a CHRO or two.
Yeah.
Talk about how that's impacting an organization. And if you're a CHRO and you want to be on the program, send us an email at hrdatalabs@salary.com, and we'd love to talk to you about it. So I give you an A+ on that one. I think it's still a problem, and I think it's still something that most organizations are wrestling with, the engagement of their employees in a hard economic time, because it's still a hard economic time,
right?
With political and economic and social uncertainty, that it's still there. And as we've talked about, one of the problems is, and we're going to get into this from my prediction, that with a new political election cycle coming up, that social and political part of our world is going to get tossed in the air again. And we're going to start to see divisions in the country and in our workforce. And that's going to be bad.
It's going to be tough. Yeah. We've got hard times ahead of us. We'll get there in my
predictions. So I think for my predictions, I had two that I really focused on. One was that pay transparency would become a mature conversation, or more mature conversation. And I think to some extent that's actually happening, because of the states that have implemented have caused the states that surround them to actually start talking about the world of pay transparency, or at least the employers in those states that surround states that have pay transparency have to talk about that. And so I think companies are actually starting to mature and come to the table and say, yes, we have to do something about this. So I think I don't know, I'll let you judge me, but I think I got that one.
Oh yeah, I think you definitely did.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And the second one was that I said that because there was a new Congress after the midterms, that there was going to be more gridlock in Congress and stuff not getting done. And I think I can point to the negotiations for the debt ceiling that just happened, that it took them weeks. You know, we're facing a massive default on U.S. debt, which would have completely crippled the economy. It would have caused us to stop paying our military. It would have caused us to stop paying Social Security. People would have lost their houses and their livelihoods, would have gone out the window. And it took literally until they just signed the legislation from the Senate today, which is June 2nd, and they had, I think, until June 5th for the default to actually happen. So you can't get more 11th, 12th hour than that. And I'm going to say I'm really not surprised, because you have a very right-wing Republican Party and a very left-wing Democratic Party who just couldn't come to the table and negotiate in good faith until they hit the fan.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, but the funny thing is about the debt ceiling, I mean, how many times have we been through this? Is all the stuff that was going on in the news, I'm like, yeah, ho-hum, this is a bunch of crap to focus on, because we go through this every couple of years. We always manage to pull it out. Those in political seats know that if they don't pull it out and make something happen, then they're going to be out of a job come next election. And
but students of history, though, Dwight, sorry to interrupt you, know that it actually has happened. That there have been times when we have gotten to the point where, you know, they have to push the rock a little bit.
Shut down the government.
They shut down the government. And that's actually
I do remember one of those happening. It was back in I want to say it was the 90s or the early 2000s.
It was in the 2000s. And so it did happen. So it can happen. And the reason why this is really bad for the economy is, think about how the pandemic caused the economy to just halt. And there was nothing good about that.
Right.
Well, at least the government was funded to be able to support all the things to keep it going. Well,
yeah, and now we are where we are.
Right. With the debt ceiling, that can't happen because they're not allowed to spend $1.
Right.
So that wouldn't have happened. And so that it's real. So anyway,
Yeah.
so I don't know. You judge me whether or not there is gridlock in Congress, but
Oh yeah, no, I definitely give that one to you because I think I think of the debt ceiling thing is just sort of random noise, but I totally give it to you. It certainly magnified the gridlock that was there too, but even absent that, yeah.
So how did I do, Dwight?
You got an A+, man.
Oh, good. Oh, cool. Well, it was tenuous there for a little bit.
A little nip and tuck there for a bit.
A little. Yeah. Hey, are you listening to this and thinking to yourself, man, I wish I could talk to David about this? Well, you're in luck. We have a special offer for listeners of the HR Data Labs podcast. A free half-hour call with me about any of the topics we cover on the podcast or whatever is on your mind. Go to salary.com/HRDL consulting to schedule your free 30-minute call today. So, Dwight, though, we're now coming to that time where now we have to make our predictions for the next 6 months. So this covers the period of June through basically December of 2023. And obviously we're coming into a political cycle. We're probably at the stage with the Fed where they're not going to raise rates anymore. Inflation's kind of under control. We're seeing prices come back down now. So what is it that you have as a prediction for HR, for the workforce, for the economy, for anything? What are your predictions for the next 6 months?
So I'm going to deviate from my past themes for predictions, which were more political and economic in nature. And I'm going to talk about trending, and that is with AI. It's amazing what the ChatGPT thing did to the discourse on AI. I mean, even on this podcast, we've been talking about AI and HR since the beginning, and AI has definitely been there. But I think the ChatGPT and the fast forward that put companies like Microsoft in the AI arena, I think we're going to see some tangible changes to the landscape even within the next 6 months. I can't say exactly what those will be, but I do think that we're going to start to feel it in our technology, hopefully in our ATSs and our HRISs and those things for those of us in the human resources arena. But I think we're going to see it in all facets of life. Now, here's an interesting thing that took place. I believe it was in the last week or two. There was a memorandum that was signed by the leaders of several of the tech companies about responsible AI. And they talked about the concept, I think fairly explicitly, about the concept of extinction of human beings as a result of AI, and how that was a definite danger if we didn't do responsible AI. And it's weird because it sounds like something out of The Walking Dead or some sci-fi movie. But
well, it's definitely like Terminator. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, just the fact that they came to the table, and the CEO of OpenAI was one of them who signed this. The fact that they're having to sign something like this at this point gives you a feel for what the true power of this is. We can't just let it grow unchecked, that it could definitely have dire circumstances if it grows in the wrong direction. So anyway, my prediction is that we're going to see a whole lot of movement. We're going to see some movement over the next 6 months in terms of integration of AI, more advanced AI, into the technology that we use on an ongoing basis. Love it.
I think that's a great prediction. In fact, that was going to be one of the ones I was going to do. So
I stole yours.
Well, you get to go first. It's okay. That's what happens when you get to go first. The one thing I will say is that if you look at cycles throughout history of where significant innovations happened, whether it was the wheel, whether it was the Industrial Revolution, steam, all of those things were seen as dire consequences from the people who said, look at what is. Mm-hmm. Whether it was a car on a road that would displace the world of horse and buggy, whether it was trains that were revolutionizing bringing goods and services to different parts of the world and different parts of the countries, whether it was, boats and canals that opened up trade and commerce between, whether it was locations in the Northeast, between Michigan and Canada, actually, and New York City. Mm-hmm. All of those things led to skepticism, right? Even the internet led to skepticism of, the downfall of the human race. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not judging AI in that context as much now, but we will definitely talk about it in 6 months. But what I'm definitely saying in terms of that is that AI is a foreseen consequence of building smart computers and building smart programming languages that take advantage of the processing power that we have at our disposal. AI has been around for many years in the world of computers. Mm-hmm. Our ability to utilize them as consumers is getting better because we're realizing how to actually talk to the AI and how to ask it the right questions. If you talk to Siri in one way, you'll get a terrible response. If you talk to Siri in a different way, you're going to get what you want. But it's in Siri's language, not in our language. And that's going to get better over time. So I'm not trying to judge what you're saying, other than I completely support the hypothesis of your prediction.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the fact that they felt the need to come to the table and sign anything really speaks to exactly how powerful it now is, as opposed to before it used to be, let's integrate it as a competitive advantage. Right. Now it's, hey, this can really have far-reaching implications for just society as a whole.
Absolutely.
But we don't know what those are going to be.
Well, I think we're going to see some of that, especially as we go to the HR Tech conference, and we talk to the thought leaders, and we see where it's gone from 2023 to from 2022 to 2023, and where they think it's going to go for 2024. So I see all of that happening.
Yep.
Let's now transition to my prediction. I think you're complete in your predictions. It was going to be AI.
You are correct. Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm putting on my hat now and looking out into the future and using my powers of vision for the next 6 months, I'm going to stay on track with pay transparency, that there are going to be more states that sign up for transparency, knowing full well this is a election season. We're going to start to hear a lot of the political candidates coming out on both sides of the DE&I spectrum. And I think pay transparency is going to be one of those things that gets more airtime because it deserves it. And because right now we're disenfranchising too many damn people without having the ability to know what pay should be. So all those states that are tangentially affected right now because they don't have laws about it, but they're affected because their neighbors do, the neighboring states do, I think they're going to start to get on it and implement some pay transparency laws. So I think that my specific prediction is the number of states that will introduce new pay transparency legislation will increase, and we're going to start to see more states in the next 6 months that either adopt it for 2024 or at least introduce it for 2024.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, there's so much of it out there, and I don't see how states couldn't adopt it at this point.
Well, so dude, remember how there are some states where this is not top of their priority list.
You're right.
So
yeah.
There's that. But I will tell you that I agree with you. I think that it should be the case where they should say this should be a priority. Mm-hmm. So I wish it was more. I will take one more smaller prediction, and this is an obvious one, so it's going to happen no matter what. But the political cycle is going to cause more social and political anxiety for employees, and I think engagement is going to get difficult in the fourth quarter of 2023, in the calendar fourth quarter of 2023, with all of the political cycles spinning up and all of the garbage on both sides and the rhetoric happening at a fever pitch. Right. So unfortunately, I see more of that happening. I wish it could be less, but that's not going to be the case. So,
well, and I think especially in light of everything that we're seeing, with the Donald Trump indictment, I think that's just going to amplify things more than the typical back and forth that we see with these sorts of things.
And unfortunately, it's multiple indictments. And I say unfortunately because I think that's going to cause a lot of political noise. Again, we don't talk politics on the HR Data Labs podcast, but when you're dealing with the world of human resources, unfortunately, you cannot break away from the fact that politics affects the working world. And so...
Yeah, because it's not a judgment on either side that we're talking about here. It's just a reality of the political situation and the fact that it will impact.
Absolutely. So those are our predictions for the second 6 months of 2023. And then, as I said, we're going to go to the HR Tech Conference. We're going to learn a lot. And then hopefully by the end of season 6, which is our next season, we're going to learn a lot more about the world of HR and process and technology. I did want to end the podcast talking about some things we'd like to see for the podcast going forward for the next season. And I'll just throw this out there, Dwight. I'll go first. I think we're going to transition the purpose of the show from being around data and analytics to just being more open to other HR topics as well. We've already gone there, really. The origin story of the podcast was always about how to utilize data and analytics in the world of business from an HR perspective. While we're always going to touch on data and analytics as part of that, I think we're going to acknowledge the fact that we've been talking a lot more about policy and process as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely so. No, I think that'll be good. We're going to need to expand the dialogue on these things.
I think we may actually do some fun other episodes where we may take some tangential conversations, tangential to the heart of the show, but we may throw some extra episodes in here and there along the way in season 6 and potentially season 7, or maybe even starting in season 7, but we'll start planning them in season 6. So a lot of fun stuff coming up. How about you? What are things you'd like to see the show to go next year?
I think you've hit on the things that I'd like to see happen. I'd like to expand the base of people who want to participate as people on the podcast. And I think we've got plenty of opportunity to be able to do that.
All right, Dwight. Well, I think that wraps up the season 5 finale, episode 125 of the HR Data Labs podcast. Thank you very much, Dwight.
Thank you, David. Looking forward to the next 125.
Oh, good Lord. Well, that'll at least take us a few seasons. So another 5 seasons. So I think we've got it in us, but we just have to put it on the calendar.
Yeah, we'll keep busting them out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Dwight. I appreciate you being a part of the show.
Thank you for letting me be part of the show. It's good to be able to work with you on this.
We're partners on this, let's be honest.
Definitely.
All right. Well, that means you have to be more part of season 6. So
I got to quit slacking.
You worked hard through that time. So let's just be honest.
Exactly.
You earned your keep. All right. Well, Dwight, thank you. And thank you all for listening. Take care and stay safe.
That was the HR Data Labs podcast. If you liked the episode, please subscribe. And if you know anyone that might like to hear it, please send it their way. Thank you for joining us this week, and stay tuned for our next episode. Stay safe.